I'm Pat Mayo with your fantasy football update for Tuesday, September 24th, plus a recap of Monday Night Football if you're looking for the updated injury report and the updated pickups, plus the NFL power rankings and the secret link to the spread show. Hit the description. It's in the newsletter link that's down there right now. All right, sub to the channel and smash the like while you're here, and use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now and get yourself a free pick of Patrick Mahomes in week number 4. Do you think that he can go over 0.5 total yards? I do. So go use code Mayo at Underdog right now and get yourself in the game, all right? Monday Night Football, the Bills absolutely pummel the Jacksonville Jaguars 47-10. Khalil Shakir was the standout in this game, besides Josh Allen, that he played a ton of 2 wide receiver sets, more so than he'd been doing already through the first 2 games of the season. He's solidly a low-end wide receiver 2 in season-long fantasy for the rest of the season. I wouldn't worry about him. He is the only consistent part of this offense outside of Josh Allen and James Cook. Keon Coleman, who did catch a touchdown in this game, was benched for the first 2 series. Why? We do not know, but he was out of the 2 wide receiver sets even when he came back in. Fortunately, he made the most of his 1 target to salvage a fantasy day, but unless something comes out about this, he might be out of that rotation. In fact, between him, Mac Hollins, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Curtis Samuel, none of these guys are reliable. Coleman's the only one I would hang on to, but to start him, it's going to be pretty difficult moving forward. They pulled their starters midway through the 4th quarter, so you're going to see a bunch of guys with weird snap counts. Wouldn't worry too much about the rest of the Bills at this moment. On the other side of the ball, we're pretty lucky, us Travis Etienne owners, that Doug Peterson decided to just keep him in during garbage time because he piled up a bunch of points and salvaged his day there. Ended up in at least PPR formats with around 12 or 13 fantasy points. So not a great RB1 type day, but good enough to get you by going into next week. He's still the guy in the Jags backfield, although this team looks bad. And in the receiving core, you had Kirk is better than Brian Thomas, who's better than Gabe Davis, but they're the ones who are on the field the majority of the time. Strange filling in for Evan Ingram was fine, ended up catching a touchdown, but Ingram should be back for week number 4. We'll wait and see on that. He's missed the last 2 games, so with that hamstring injury, that's where he should be going right now. And with the sad state of tight end, you're going to need Evan Ingram to come back. Even if he only puts up like 8 fantasy points a game, that's probably good enough to be a top 5 guy at this point. In the other game, Washington not only covers the spread against Cincinnati, they outright win the game, and Jaden Daniels looks awesome. The efficiency was off the charts. The running was there. He only completed 21 passes, but it was for over 250 yards. So he was hitting McLaurin downfield. He ended up with 2 touchdowns. And 79% of the remaining Survivor League teams that were still active in week 3 are now gone between the massive losses from Cleveland. Cincinnati was the highest picked team of the week, and Vegas was the 3rd highest. The 1, 2, and 3 all go down. San Francisco also losing. So if you're still alive in Survivor, just hold on. It's almost over. You almost won the big money, so congratulations. This was the first game since 1940 without a turnover or a punt in it. That's insane to think about. It was offensive fireworks the whole time, but it wasn't great news for everyone. If you started Austin Eckler, that was good. He had a receiving touchdown. Unfortunately, he also sustained a concussion in this game, so he's probably not going to play in week number 4. Jeremy McNichols will work as the primary backup to Brian Robinson. This will put Brian Robinson against Arizona upwards into solid running back 1 territory as long as Austin Eckler is going to be out, although he ended up getting into the end zone, but he had a touchdown vultured by Jaden Daniels again, who's just off the charts top 5 fantasy QB right now, at least in some of these softer matchups against bad defenses. Noah Brown did play the 2nd most snaps at receiver of any of the Washington receivers, but it was McLaurin way above everyone else, then Noah Brown. Then you saw a mix between Zacchaeus and Luke McCaffrey and Diami Brown. So it wasn't overall the best case scenario for Noah Brown, but he's very solidly their number 2 on the field right now. The only times he really came off is when they played 3 tight end sets, and that only had McLaurin on the field as the single wide receiver in those formations. On the other side, Trent Brown was carted off the field, so a big loss to the Cincinnati offensive line. Chase went off like expected, and T. Higgins returned. Should have had 2 touchdowns, but didn't. It was a terrible throw by Burrow on the first one, and then the second one, maybe he should have come down with it, maybe he shouldn't have, but he gets a lot of single coverage with teams trying to take Chase out of this game. He just wasn't completely sharp, but Higgins is going to be a full-go wide receiver 2 moving forward. More news from Monday in the NFL. I'll be back on Thursday, by the way, with these quick updates because we need to see what happens in practice on Wednesday before we report on anything. But Christian McCaffrey went to Germany to get I guess PRP or TRT or whatever the hell, PRP injections like Kobe used to do into his knee, into his Achilles. This isn't necessarily bad news. It could help the recovery of his Achilles, but it just seems like he's going to be out for more time at this point. I think their bye is week 8 or week 9. Probably after that is the first chance we may get to see Christian McCaffrey, but more on that later in the week once we know how the results of the PRP ended up going. The Chargers got real problems. Herbert might try to play in this game, which is crazy as giant underdogs, even at home against the Chiefs. But here's the deal. He has this high ankle sprain. He can barely plant on it. If he gets hurt again, he could be out for the season if it gets so bad. They have a bye week next week. They're huge underdogs in this game. And Slater and Joe Alt, the starting tackles, are going to be out with various injuries. And on the other side of the ball, Joey Bosa is probably going to be out. And Derwin James is suspended for the game. So it's probably not an optimal situation to put your franchise quarterback into, but at this point, with the spread moving back towards somehow the Chargers since the open on Sunday night, it's looking more and more like Herbert might try to give it a go. They probably should sit him down. Will they? This we don't know. Downgrade everyone on this Chargers offense with the loss of the 2 starting tackles. Adam Thielen is going to miss extended time with his hamstring injury, could end up on injured reserve for Carolina. That just means more snaps and more routes for Xavier Legette, and maybe Jonathan Mingo. Probably wouldn't worry too much about him. Just fire up some Deontay Johnson, and you'll be good to go for the Carolina offense as long as Andy Dalton is starting. The Pittsburgh backfield got thin super quickly. So we already knew that Jaylen Warren had to go get an MRI on his knee. We don't know the results of that yet. He could be fine. He might not be fine. And then Najee Harris all of a sudden is walking around in a sling on Monday for his arm at the Steelers practice facility. So I don't know what his status is going to be this week against a fantastic matchup in the Colts. And the Steelers are 1.5 point favorites on the road in Indy on the fast track. If those 2 guys can't go, you got Cordarrelle Patterson and Jonathan Ward as the backups right now. I think that at least one of them plays, but just cautionary purposes, if you want to put in like a $0 bid on Cordarrelle in deeper leagues, I wouldn't hate that. You can find him in the pickup power rankings down in the description right now. And finally, Ian Rappaport reported that Gardner Minshew will remain the Vegas starter, at least for week 4, at home against the Browns. They went from a 1-point underdog to a 1-point favorite once that news was confirmed. Smash a like and sub to the channel while you're here. Code Mayo at Underdog, and I will be back Thursday with the quick update. The spread show will be released 1 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. We did an early record, but if you want to watch it right now on YouTube, hit up that link down in the description to the newsletter and the pickups. The secret link is in there right now. All right? Have a good one. I'm Pat Mayo.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!